Love requires jihad. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. Explanatory introduction. This text deals with the meaning of true love for Allah and how that love manifests concretely in the believer's life. The author shows that love for Allah is not merely an inner feeling or an abstract devotion, but rather has clear practical implications. That love translates into obedience, loyalty, and a readiness for sacrifice and effort in the divine cause. One of the central points of the text is that love for Allah is the very root of the religion, and that its perfection depends on the perfection of that love. The weakness of religion in a person, by contrast, reflects the weakness of their love for their Lord. To illustrate this relationship between love and action, the words of the Prophet Muhammad _FDFA and verses from the Quran are cited, showing that the highest point of religious practice is striving and struggling in the path of Allah, since this represents the highest degree of devotion and sacrifice out of love for Allah. The text also highlights that the true lovers of Allah are those willing to face the disapproval of others in order to fulfill what pleases their Lord. Thus, it exalts the firm, loyal, and sacrificial character of those who fight for the cause of Allah, showing that true love for Allah demands not only emotions, but clear stances, loving what He loves and rejecting what He rejects, being with those He loves and standing against His enemies. It also analyzes the difference between a legitimate kind of spiritual unity, in which the believer aligns with the will of his Lord in what he loves and hates, and certain deviant ideas that claim an ontological union between the Creator and the creation. These latter ideas are categorically rejected by Islamic doctrine, as they imply a form of associating others with Allah and resemble Christian beliefs or those of other groups. The phenomenon is also discussed of some ascetics or Sufis who, in extreme states of love and spiritual ecstasy, momentarily lose consciousness of themselves and believe they are merged with their beloved. The author distinguishes between those who involuntarily reach such a state due to spiritual fervor, and are therefore not held accountable for their words, and those who do so through prohibited means, such as intoxication, in which case there is no excuse. Finally, the text reaffirms that the most perfect in love for Allah were the Prophet's companions, and that they never fell into these deviations or claimed any kind of union with Allah that contradicts His absolute oneness. It concludes that sincere love necessarily implies submission to divine commands, opposition to the enemies of Allah, and rejection of every deviation from the straight path. Text by Ibn Taymiyyah. It was previously established that His love is the foundation of the religion, and it was shown that the perfection of religion is in its perfection, and its deficiency in its deficiency, because the Prophet said, "The head of the matter is Islam, its pillar is prayer, and the peak of its hump is jihad in the path of Allah." Thus, he informed us that jihad is the highest and noblest act. And He exalted is He said, "Do you equate providing water for the pilgrims and maintaining the sacred mosque with those who believe in Allah and the last day and strive in the path of Allah? They are not equal in the sight of Allah," until His saying, "A tremendous reward." And the texts about the virtues of jihad and its people are numerous. And it has been shown that it is the best of what the servant can offer voluntarily, and that jihad is the test of perfect love. He exalted is He said, "Say, if your fathers, your sons, your brothers, your spouses, and your clan." And He exalted is He also said, describing the beloved lovers, "O you who believe, whoever among you turns away from his religion, Allah will bring a people whom He loves and who love Him, humble toward the believers, stern against the disbelievers, striving in the path of Allah and not fearing the blame of any blamer." Thus, He described the beloved lovers as those who are humble with the believers, strong against the disbelievers, who fight in the path of Allah and do not fear the blame of any blamer. Because love necessitates jihad, for whoever loves, loves what his beloved loves, hates what his beloved hates, aligns with whom he aligns and opposes whom he opposes, is pleased with what pleases him and angered by what angers him, commands what he commands and forbids what he forbids. Thus, he is in accord with him in these matters. And they are those who are pleased with their Lord's pleasure and angered by what angers him, for they are only pleased with his pleasure and angered for what angers him. As the Prophet said to Abu Bakr in a group where Suhaib and Bilal were present, "Perhaps you have angered them, and if you have angered them, then you have angered your Lord." Then he said to them, "O my brothers, have I angered you?" They replied, "No, may Allah forgive you, O Abu Bakr." Abu Sufyan ibn Harb had passed by them, and they said, "The swords of the enemy of Allah have not taken from him what they should have." Abu Bakr then said, "Do you say that to the master of Quraysh?" Later, Abu Bakr mentioned this to the Prophet, and he told him what he had said before, for they had spoken out of anger for what angers Allah, due to the perfection of their loyalty to Allah and His Messenger, and their enmity toward the enemies of Allah and His Messenger. And for that reason, the Prophet said in the authentic hadith narrating from his Lord, "My servant continues to draw near to me with voluntary acts until I love him. And when I love him, I am his hearing with which he hears, his sight with which he sees, his hand with which he strikes, and his leg with which he walks. Through me he hears, through me he sees, through me he strikes, and through me he walks. And if he asks me, I will surely give him, and if he seeks my protection, I will surely protect him. And I have not hesitated about anything I do as I hesitate about taking the nafs of my believing servant. He dislikes death, and I dislike harming him, but it is inevitable for him." Thus, he, glorified be he, showed that he hesitates, because hesitation is the conflict between two wills. And he, glorified be he, loves what his servant loves and hates what he hates. And since the servant hates death, he too hates it, as he said, "And I dislike harming him." But he, glorified be he, has decreed death, and thus he wills his death. So he called that hesitation, and then clarified that its occurrence is inevitable. And this is an accord and unity in what is loved, pleasing, and commanded, and in what is hated, rejected, and forbidden. And this may be called a unity of type and quality. And this is not the union of two essences, for that is impossible and impermissible, and whoever affirms it is a disbeliever. This is the belief of the Christians. The extremist R. A. Macron F. I. letter 1E0D A. H. And some ascetics such as Al letter 1E25 LLA Macron J. and those like him. And it is a union limited to a specific instance. As for the absolute union, which is the claim of those who believe in the unity of existence, W. A letter 1E25D A T al-Wujud, asserting that the existence of the created is the very essence of the existence of the Creator. This is a negation of the Maker and a denial of Him, and it entails every form of idolatry. Just as union is of two kinds, so too is incarnation. One group affirms limited incarnation in specific individuals, and another group affirms incarnation in everything. These latter are the Jamis who say, "The essence of Allah is in every place." And it may happen to some of those who attain harmony among the people of annihilation in love that they vanish in their beloved from themselves and from their love, and vanish in what they remember of his remembrance, in what they know of his knowledge, in their existence from his existence, until they perceive nothing but their beloved, and due to the disappearance of their discernment, the weakness of their intellect and their intoxication, they believe they are their beloved. As it has been said, indeed, a beloved fell into the sea, and the lover threw himself in after him. And it was said, "I fell, what made you fall?" And it was said, "I vanished from myself in you, and so I thought you were me." There is no doubt that this is an error and a misguidance. But if this happened due to the strength of love and remembrance, and not through a forbidden cause that impaired the intellect, then he is excused for the loss of his reason. Thus, he is not reproached for what he says in that state in which his reason was lost without a prohibited cause. As has been said about the mad saints, they are a people to whom Allah gave intellect and spiritual states, then removed their intellect while preserving their states, and annulled what he had obligated due to what he removed. But if the cause of the loss of reason was prohibited, like intoxication, then he is not excused, even though he is not judged as having committed disbelief, according to the soundest opinion, just as his divorce is not considered valid according to the soundest of the two opinions, though the disagreement on this ruling is known. We have already explained this issue, whose state is accepted and whose is not based on that. In any case, the annihilation that leads its experiencer, or something like it, to this state is a deficient state, even if the experiencer is not held accountable. And for this reason, nothing like this has been reported from the companions, the best of this community, nor from the Prophet Muhammad, the best of the messengers. Although in the fainting of Musa there was a type of resemblance to this, the loss of reason occurred in some divine revelations over certain followers and those who came after them. And since perfect love necessarily implies alignment with the beloved in what he loves, in what he hates, in alliance and in enmity, then it is known that whoever loves Allah with the obligatory love must hate his enemies and love what he loves, fighting them. As he exalted as he said, "Indeed, Allah loves those who fight in his cause in rows as though they are a solid structure." And the perfect lover is not affected by the blame of the blamer nor the rebuke of the rebuker. Rather, that pushes him to persist in love, as most poets have said. And these are the people of praiseworthy blame, those who do not fear those who blame them for what Allah loves and is pleased with, like fighting his enemies. For indeed, in that there is much blame. But blame for doing what Allah dislikes or for abandoning what he loves is rightful blame, and it is not praiseworthy to have patience with it. Rather, returning to the truth is better than persisting in falsehood. And with this, the difference is established between the blamed, who do what Allah and his messenger love and do not fear the blame of any blamer in that, and the blamed, who do what Allah and his messenger detest and persist in it despite the blame.